effort to denounce whaling, and we're one of the many protests in countless cities around the world. So thank you to all of you for being a voice to the voiceless. I'm here on behalf of the Greens, who support an international ban on not only commercial whaling but scientific whaling as well, and an international ban on the sale of whale meat and all whale byproducts. So that's an absolute ban across the board. But I'm also here to speak personally about my own experiences as an animal activist. Every day I am absolutely astounded and disgusted by the way in which we as human beings treat animals and use them as a means to an end. And many of these ways are legally sanctioned. Scientific whaling, which sees 1,000 whales killed each year in the Southern Ocean, is no exception to this. Much of the time, this systematic abuse is hidden from our eyes, particularly farm animals. It's completely legal to keep a chicken in a cage the size of an A4 piece of paper for their entire lives. Female cows are artificially impregnated with a steel rod over and over again until they are no longer considered economically productive. And sows are confined their entire lives in stalls so small that they can't turn around. I'm here today as a person, and I'm sure all of you are as well, because I feel that this is one of the most important ways that we can be a voice for the voiceless in our society. As an activist, I feel that my personal involvement with the Greens is one of the most important ways that I can be this voice for the animals. I'm currently the candidate for Cororoit, which is in the outer west, but my involvement with the Greens started with the Animals Working Group. Now, the Greens are the only political party to have a comprehensive policy in relation to animal welfare. The only one to have that comprehensive policy, and that, of course, includes whaling.
Okay.
This policy, as I mentioned, is an international ban which on commercial whaling, and also the abolition of scientific whaling, and an international ban on whale meat and whale byproducts. Now, recently the Rudd government announced legal action in the International Court of Justice against Japan, and this is a step in the right direction, though it's interesting the timing of this announcement, which came right before a federal election when they were facing accusations of not living up to election policies. While this legal action is a commendable step, and it's a step in the right direction, we have to remember that this is a long process. The Japanese initial pleadings aren't due until March 2012. That's almost a year and a half away, and that's just the beginning of a very, very long legal battle. It's also a process that has no guarantee of success. What we need in the meantime, and what I'm sure all of us are here for, is to put pressure on the Australian government. We need a government who has the courage to maintain continuous political pressure on the Japanese government to end their program of commercial whaling. This step of ICJ action just isn't enough. The government has ignored calls by the Greens continuously to step up pressure on the Japanese. Greens Senator Bob Brown has repeatedly called for greater scrutiny and monitoring of whaling activities and clashes between Japanese boats and activists, including sending an independent Australian boat to monitor the Southern Ocean and monitor these clashes, so there is an independent witness to what is going on. He's also called for Federal Attorney General Bob McClellan to step up and to prosecute the captain of the Japanese whaling boat on Shannon Maru 2 in relation to the sinking of the anti-whaling Japanese vessel Addie Gill, which happened in January this year. But the Australian government and the coalition have supported none of these calls to action, not one of them. Instead, they allowed Sea Shepherd captain of the Addie Gill boat to be imprisoned and to be tried in Japan when he attempted to board the Japanese ship to make a citizen's arrest of this captain. Now, that's just not acceptable. The ICJ is an important step in fighting whaling, but it really isn't the only step. So what we need, and what I'm calling for on the Australian government today, is to have the courage to maintain continued political pressure on their Japanese government, now, all the way through the ICJ pleadings, and into the future until their program of commercial and scientific whaling is completely banned. I'm a Greens candidate, so I'm not going to pretend that I'm not here to say vote Greens, but I'm also here to say volunteer for the Greens. So please get out there, get on a polling booth and hand out how to vote cards for me in the western suburbs, or wherever you can. So thank you all for being here and letting your voices be heard. What we need is action, and we need it now from the Australian government in the form of political pressure continued. Thank you.